Hello everyone. Welcome to Digital Marketing Gyan Podcast, your one-stop destination to explore the latest happenings, strategies, tools, techniques, and case studies in digital marketing domain. I'm your host Prince Kumar, and we have an amazing guest today, for which I'm very excited. We have Emory Craig, the CEO of digital body Immersive, a leading AR, VR, XR consulting group. And today we will be discussing on the topic how AI and VR are transforming the digital marketing world. Mori is a recognized thought leader on virtual reality and the social and ethical challenges and opportunities created through the digital revolution. As a futurist, he is fascinated by how VR and AI are transforming the way we learn, work, and communicate, and the impact on education, politics, art, and the workplace. Hi, Mori, a warm welcome on our show.
Thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. And it's always interesting to talk about these topics. They're fascinating, very relevant, I think, to everyone's lives, to people that are in marketing, and even just to people in general, and to educators and anyone who's online, because these are the kind of technology developments that will shape all of our lives.
Definitely, and with the trends that is going upon with the chat GPT and these all things, this topic becomes more relevant for the audience.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, obviously, the most recent development has been the Chat GPT, which just arrived at the end of November. And it was absolutely amazing to see that it hit 1 million users within the first 5 days, 100 million users within a month. I mean, we have never seen a technology take off so quickly. And this would just have a profound impact on our lives. So it's an exciting time. It's just, it's one of those times I think that you kind of go, it's all happening so fast, but sometimes you have to step back and take a quick look at it because in a way, it's sort of like the beginning of flight or the beginning of the Industrial Revolution with industry, and everything is happening around you, and it's hard to see everything and to see where it's going. But, we're going to look back on this at some point and go, this was just really an exciting time to be witness to all of these developments that are taking place.
Great, definitely. Definitely. So we will be having a lot of conversation on the topic. But to start with our conversation of today, can you help the audience know a bit more about yourself, about your corporate journey?
Sure. Yeah. My background is really very interesting, and it's actually in philosophy and art. It's not in business. I'm not a technology person to start with, and I went to graduate school in New York City, and I came out of that, and interestingly enough, didn't think I'd get a job as a university professor, so ended up in the art world, and spent 8 years working at the New Museum, at galleries in Soho in New York City, working on contemporary art, and then from there transitioned back into higher education. And then it was 2013 or 14, I guess. The years are kind of sketchy. This was about almost 10 years ago. I and my co-founder had a chance to visit the Stanford Human-Computer Interaction Lab and do VR experience, and it was just absolutely breathtaking. I mean, it was the first time that I had used technology, and I've been using a lot, but first time that I'd used technology where I took the headset off and I went, this is a game changer. This is something profoundly different because this is not technology on a screen. This is not something external to me. This was an experience, a human experience. And we've played a leading role in this. Particularly in higher education initially. We worked with EDUCAUSE in the United States. We worked with international organizations. iLearn, which is a consortium of researchers and practitioners on developing, VR for education and other opportunities. And I think some of our most interesting work actually has been with government organizations and NGOs, with non-government organizations. We've been very rewarding to work with with a group in the Middle East on a peace initiative on the Jordan River Valley called Echo Peace, and they've really tried to recreate, an area in virtually that, of course, is very difficult to be in the real world. You can be on one side of the Jordan River Valley or the other, but you're not going to cross over back and forth, you know. But you can build the virtual bridge, and you actually can walk across and be on the other side. And what they've done is they've tried to bring together students and others in the community and help them experience this virtually so that they see that there's actually shared concerns here, there's shared ground, because even though we have these political borders and divisions, the reality is everybody needs water, everybody needs land, everybody needs agriculture, and
Correct.
there is this shared part. And so doing that has been, I think for us, it's been a very rewarding experience, and it had shown it's really demonstrated the power of virtual reality, of what it can do to sort of bring people together. So that's sort of in a nutshell, our corporate journey.
Great, great, great. Okay, so you have already been working into this industry, but for the digital marketers who are not that much aware about the industry, so can you help them understand what does this, in simple terms, what is AI, VR, and AR, and what is the kind of impact that it is getting?
I'm sure, happy to do so. I will start with AI first, just because it's on everybody's minds. I did like a webinar last night to 500 people in Sri Lanka. More than that, I think I know was all on Chat GPT, and of course over here is exactly what we're talking about also. Um, AI is of course basically just computer programming that simulates human intelligence, and there's sort of narrow focused AI, and then there's what's called strong AI. ChatGPT is just really a narrow conversational version of AI. What's remarkable about what's happened with ChatGPT is that there's been some human intervention in it. We've had, of course, a long history of AI development. It goes all the way back to 1950 or early 1950s. And, there were efforts to develop it. And there was a long winter in the 80s where not much happened. And then, you have IBM's Watson and other stuff come about, and some things begin to take off there. But, it's been sort of stop and start kind of thing. And it hasn't, until recently, did not really move forward very fast. One of the more interesting, I think, developments, really interesting, has been OpenAI's ChatGPT, because there is human intervention in training, human intervention in trying to guide this and not keeping it from going, I guess you'd say, off the guardrails. Famously, Microsoft tried to do this a couple years ago with Tay. It's AI chatbot, and of course, it within 24 hours it became fascist and racist and everything else, and they had to pull it offline because it was sitting there picking up the absolute worst stuff on Twitter and repeating it to people. It was just absolutely horrifying. So, what's happening now is we have a form of conversational AI, which is absolutely remarkable. And, it's, as I have been saying to people over the past month, I've been saying, I think one of the real skills of the 21st century that we will all need to learn to master is how to talk to AI, how to talk to artificial intelligence. Because in the past, this was all something outside our realm. Researchers did this. We did it. Of course, what's interesting here is we've all been using artificial intelligence without realizing it. If you go to YouTube, you have your recommendation list in YouTube is AI generated. It's used by Facebook, Meta. It's used in every single social media platform. Yeah, it's all there, but it's been something behind the scenes that we don't know. And we're not very good at talking to technology. We're really terrible at this. And you know, Google search. I always bring this up with Google search that 28% of people click on the top link. Literally, 28% of people get a page full of results and go to immediately to the top link. 90% of people, I think it's 95%, never go to page 2 or 3, which is why, of course, SEO is such a big challenge and everybody wants to be on the top page. But, that's not really searching appropriately because, and as I would always say to my students and say to clients, you have to do more than just what's on the first page of Google. Sometimes what's on the first page of Google is going to be somebody that does good SEO. It's not necessarily what you need for your work, what you need to find. So I think what's happening now, what ChatGPT is proving to us, is that we're going to have to learn how to talk to artificial intelligence. And, it's a great program and great opportunity to practice our skills in doing this. In terms of the other technologies you brought up, and so it's just maybe to do a quick overview here so people have a sense of it. Augmented reality is overlaying digital information, digital objects on our environment. It doesn't actually interact with the environment, it's just there. There are some augmented reality glasses available. They're not as good as they need to be. I think they're going to get much better in the future, but right now it just overlays information. It's in the military, of course. This is very widely used, not so much in consumer. We have Nrio and a couple of other companies that have produced AR glasses, but they're really limited to really being sort of an accessory to your smartphone right now, which is one reason why they haven't taken off. Because for most people, it's easy enough to take your phone out of your pocket, and nobody wants to spend hundreds of dollars more to, add another tech device if it really doesn't do anything. Mixed reality, which is kind of that space between augmented reality and virtual reality. Mixed reality is far more interesting. It may possibly be what Apple is developing as device. And mixed reality, you have digital objects that appear through the screen, but they interact with the environment. So in mixed reality, if you have an object on a table, for example, like let's say a ball or something, and it rolls off the table, in augmented reality, it just sits there in midair, which is, of course, not very realistic. In mixed reality, it falls down onto the floor because the digital object recognizes the spatial environment that is part of. That, of course, makes for a much more compelling experience, much more fascinating, and much more engaging experience. Mixed reality is also good because you still are part of the real world. You're looking through a device. Magic Leap's glasses come to mind here, which sort of started out with a lot of hype and then failed, but now have come back again. It's very engaging because you still see the real world, you can still interact with things, but you have those digital elements within it. Virtual reality, of course, you're putting on a headset, you're completely blocking out the real world, and you're in a totally immersive environment. And that has, it really took off. Meta, Facebook, with the purchase of you know of Oculus and developing the Oculus Quest headset, first version 1, version 2. It's been very interesting. I think what's happening right now, though, is we're in a bit of a lull on this. We're in a bit of a, treading water kind of moment because Meta said, oh, we're going to invest billions of dollars in the metaverse. And of course, well, it's a great idea, but people don't really have the technology for it right now. It's just not there. Even if you have the technology like the headset, you also need the bandwidth. And it's just, that's incredibly expensive. And while you can do some of that in, highly developed countries in most of the world, people just do not have the bandwidth to do this, to have it really have an impact. So it's going to happen down the road, but I think it's going to take a while. And right now, Meta, of course, is kind of cutting back on their investments in this because they're losing just so much money. I mean, staggering amounts of money, billions of dollars a year that they have put into this. So we're going to see a bit of a low on this, and I think the big focus will be on artificial intelligence. But I do have to say it will come back, and I do think, people talk a lot right now. There was a lot of hype last year about the metaverse. Oh, we're going to have everything's going to be in the metaverse. We're all going to do our marketing in the metaverse. That hasn't happened. And you look back at all that hype last year and go, well, that was just a lot of hype. We're not there yet. It will happen. Marketers need to be cognizant of this. They need to be aware of the developments, but it's going to take a couple years for this to really come out. So we're not there yet. But these are, AI, augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality are all developments that people really need to stay aware of, watch the developments on. I think the big thing right now, what everyone's waiting for, is to see what Apple does. And Apple will never say what they're doing until they do it. Of course,
Yes.
yeah, it's kind of like Steve Jobs with his classic thing in 2007 introducing the iPhone and saying I have an iPod with a glass screen, I have a phone, I have an internet communicator, I have three devices, but no, they're actually one device. It turns out to be a phone that does it all, and we're going to have the same thing happen again. But Apple has really faced challenges on this, and the challenge right now, of course, is that our technology leapfrogs ahead in terms of processor speed, but battery technology grows, but it doesn't grow nearly as fast. No one wants to wear a battery on their face. Literally, nobody does. And if you're going to wear smart glasses on your face, they're going to have to be extremely lightweight, and the issue becomes, what do you do with the battery? I mean, we can cram all the technology for smart glasses, the actual technology, into the glasses frame with no challenge whatsoever and create a comfortable pair of glasses. What we can't get there is the battery. It just makes it heavy and awkward to wear. The alternative here, of course, with smart glasses is you tether them to an iPhone. You keep the iPhone in your pocket, you have the phone, but that's not something that's very consumer friendly. And I don't see that's ever going to have wide adoption. Now, maybe Apple will do that as a temporary solution. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see. And there might be something from Apple come June this year. We'll have to see what happens. But, right now, we'll just have to see how Apple addresses this challenge. And that challenge really is, if you're going to have smart glasses, they can't be too heavy. If you're going to have mixed reality headset, well, then you're probably not going to wear that outside because it's just going to be too heavy, but you'll at least wear it at home. So we'll have to see what happens on all this. But these are all fascinating developments.
Yeah, definitely. These all things are very fascinating, but definitely these
Yeah.
are futures. No one can ignore that. This is something that will not happen because this is somewhere happening. People are observing that, and they are getting, like, the big brands are also coming into these, adopting these technologies so that they can give a kind of better outcome to their customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now coming to the technologies, so can you help the audience understand that how they are being used in the digital marketing world? Especially, we would also love to know about the chat GPT and how it is making the life of the digital marketers easy.
Sure, sure. Happy to talk about that. ChatGPT, I think, is going to be just absolutely astonishing for marketers and for businesses in general because it's just such easy to use content creation. It's just, again, though, the real challenge here goes back to how do you talk to it? You can't just say, you could say, create a marketing plan for me. Well, ChatGPT is going to create something, but it's not going to really be something all that useful. You say, create a marketing plan about X, Y, and Z for this particular kind of business operating in India or in the EU or in the United States. And it's going to start to evolve out a much more complex and much more useful product that you can make use of. So there's the larger element here of sort of structuring, your plans, structuring your strategy, and ChatGPT is very good at doing that. It can also do very detailed kind of things. I think it's going to become, in the end, it's going to become customer service. It's going to be a lot of that. We're going to see instances of ChatGPT that are customer facing, and it's one of the challenges has always been, as I think so many of your listeners probably know, of using AI in the past. If AI sounds artificial, your customers are going to get very disenchanted very, very quickly. They're just going to go, "This is not helpful to me. I need answers to my questions. I need, I need help." And when you call a helpline, you don't want to listen to a recorded message. You don't want to listen to automated feedback that doesn't really address your needs. And, it's been very, very challenging for companies because the AI that they have had has not been the AI that we need. And of course, the end result of that has been oftentimes companies have just staffed with, live, of course, people that can sit there and actually answer calls. That's good, but of course that's expensive, and doing something that is a huge challenge. One of the examples I always used to use in my classes when I taught is JetBlue Airways in the United States had a social media policy of responding within 10 minutes to anything on social media. That's pretty remarkable when you think about it, because they would do that even at 3 a.m. in the morning, which means that you had to have a social media team that was, working all night long. And, I would, with my class, we would do stuff in the digital revolution, and I would throw Twitter up at the board and type in a tweet about JetBlue. And I would say, "Let's watch and see what happens." And, and I would go on teaching, and I was teaching evening classes. So it's like 9 o'clock at night. And, 5 minutes would go by, and I could just go on and continue teaching. 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and suddenly students would start to go, "Professor, they haven't responded yet. Professor, they're not responding." 8 minutes, 9 minutes. But sure enough, every single time before 10 minutes was up, somebody literally had responded to my tweet and, said, "Thank you for the compliment," or, "We hope you enjoyed that flight. We hope to see you again on another flight." That kind of engagement, of course, does what? Breeds happy customers, breeds customers that are going to come back and use your services, buy your product again and again and again. But I think what's going to happen, what we're going to see happen this year, is we're going to see Chat GPT and, derivatives of that be used for customer engagement. And, because when you use Chat GPT, it's just, well, the most remarkable thing about it is it just seems very human-like. It doesn't seem like artificial intelligence. That word, artificial, it seems like real intelligence. And of course, it still has its failings. I mean, you can ask it a question, and it will spit out some gobbledygook, something you don't know, and at some point it can't do anything anymore, and it doesn't always come up with the right answer. But it's going to become so much better. I mean, what people have to realize right now is what we're seeing on this, and Sam Altman, as the CEO of OpenAI, has said this. We're seeing only the very beginning of what is possible here in artificial intelligence. We're going to get a new version of this sometime this spring, which is going to be incredibly more powerful than what we have now. It's going to grow from that in subsequent years into even more powerful applications, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating. And yes, we will see that ultimately become, I think, our client customer interface. What's interesting here is you really wonder in the end if people will just adopt to this, or we won't even know if we're talking to a real person or we're talking to artificial intelligence, whether that's through email or in an actual phone call or messaging. And, I guess if people don't know, then it's not really an issue, is it? So, we'll have to see what happens on that. I do think, in terms of augmented and virtual reality, we will see more developments here. There have been some companies that have made interesting use of AR, even though right now, to use augmented reality, pretty much the only way to do this is in your phone. Yeah, I mean, there just isn't any other way to do it. Most people don't have AR glasses. There isn't any way to do this outside of that. But still, there's been some remarkable AR marketing experiences. Some company, Nike's done some interesting stuff. Sephora has done things. Other companies have done stuff using AR through the phone. And it's created new ways to engage customers. And I think we're going to see this evolve very quickly, but especially once we have smart glasses or AR glasses. But that's going to be, I guess, a little ways down the road. We have to give that a few more years before that happens. But it's something for your audience to, again, for people to keep in mind, to think about, because once this comes out, we will have to think, okay, how do we do advertising that's not just digital advertising on the web? We have something there next to a website, it's our ad, click on this kind of link. How do we do something that engages someone, engages a customer, and either through their phone or through glasses, and pulls them in? And that's, that's going to be remarkable once we get there. And then we're going to reach all sorts of challenges here too, are we not? Because when you think about it, once we have augmented reality, I'm sure corporations are going to want to monopolize our public spaces and, advertise, right out there on the sidewalk and in the streets. And then the question becomes, do we allow that or not? I mean, most developed areas of the world, there's some regulations on advertising where you can put a sign. You can't just put a sign right over a street.
Yeah.
But of course, there's, other countries that are in that everybody just takes over the sidewalk and the street anyways, and I think we're going to have to see. We don't even have any regulations on that right now in the United States, but when I walk down the streets of New York City, I know our signage for businesses is highly regulated. The size of the sign, how bright it is. You can't just put a sign over the sidewalk, an advertising sign. But what's going to happen when you can do augmented reality? Are you going to take over the space on the sidewalk? Am I, as a person just walking down my own city, am I going to want to be interrupted every single second by advertisers? Probably not. So we will have to work all these things out, which is going to be, business, government, the consumer, all having a say in this in terms of how we want to see this rolled out.
Okay. So you have given a lot of insight today, and this will be
Yeah.
something that will be very informative for our audience. Any last piece of advice that you would like to give to businesses on how they should incorporate these technologies?
You mean in terms of how we should use it, or
Yeah,
what?
how they should be ready for incorporating this technology.
Yeah, I think it's really important, for everyone to be future oriented. And the thing that we always get caught up into here, and we all do this because we're, human beings are very immediate and we're very task driven. So we look at what's right in front of our faces, and, we need to see that what's happening now is that there are huge changes taking place, huge, profound transformations in the technologies that we're using. And it's very, very important to stay focused on these developments and to be thinking about the future because, what you see taking place right now is not at all what we're going to have even shortly. I always, my co-founder and I, when we talk to people, we always go back to that thing of the first airplane flight, the Wright brothers and Kitty Hawk, and a heavier than air aircraft getting off the ground. And, the sum total of that flight was such a short little distance, such a little teeny thing. It was shorter than the cabin, the economy class cabin of a 777 right now. And if you had stood on the beach at that time and looked at that flight, and early 1900s, you never would have thought that within less than 100 years you could get in an airplane in New Delhi or in New York and fly across the world and be on the other side of the world in a matter of less than a day. And it's so hard to see these things coming, but they are coming, and that's it's all of us really need to be forward thinking about this and think about how these changes are going to impact us. And again, it goes back to Sam Altman's comment, and the CEO of OpenAI, that what we're using now in terms of Chat GPT is just a very simple form of AI that's going to become radically more powerful, more efficient, and something that is going to have a profound impact on our lives. And this is something, again, this will be, I think, every single society will have to think about regulations on this, how we regulate it. Um, we have had enough issues with social media up to this point, and I know even in India there's been issues over social media. There has in the United States. We have the issue of fake news, or we've had rumors can spread around so easily. And what's going to happen with augmented and virtual reality is we're going to move from fake news to fake experiences, which I think is really scary, because people are going to say, I really did that. I really had that experience, but it was a virtual experience. It wasn't a real life experience. Artificial intelligence. Even though I think what's going on right now with OpenAI is really amazing and wonderful, it still has the potential to go off the guardrails completely. There's a group on Reddit that's working actively to break down the guardrails of Chat GPT, and I read through that every day, and I just go, why? We don't want to see this. Just don't. But it's going to require some regulation. We're not doing any regulation in the United States at all. I mean, the only thing that we did with social media was some regulation over sex trafficking, which was good. It stopped some of that. It was really, really good. But we haven't done any other regulation. The EU has been much, much more advanced on this. I was working with the OECD back in 2018 on developing guidelines for the use of artificial intelligence for government organizations and for schools and universities. I have to laugh at it now, because I suspect with the arrival of ChatGPT, it's been like, oops, we need to go redo those guidelines all over again. But at least they were thinking of it back in 2018, when most people didn't even have access to AI platforms at all, unless you were a researcher. You just didn't. So we really need to work on these regulations and to think about, you want stuff that's democratic, you want stuff that's inclusive, you want, guidelines that are fair, that give people opportunities, and you want to limit what bad actors can do without limiting freedom. You don't want to limit freedom. On the other hand, you don't want somebody to be able to take this and use it as a weapon against other people. And that can happen in marketing. It can happen just in social areas of society and the way we engage with each other. And so it's just going to be very important that we think carefully about this, and that we,
Definitely,
that,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. The last point that you have given upon that, having a regulation is something that is very important, because
yeah,
when ChatGPT was, kind of in the initial, so we were also hearing a lot of talk about people are using ChatGPT to hack, you know, cyber to use for the cyber crimes and these all things. So when if these regulations and these things are made, then at least whatever things are being developed, we are ensuring that it is not being misused and it is being
yeah.
used into the proper way. Okay. So with this, we have now come to the end of today's episode. It was pleasure having you, Maury, with us. We look forward to have you again on our show and discuss about many more revolutions that are coming into this digital world.
So,
Great.
yeah. So thank you very much for having me. It's been wonderful. Your great questions, and I think the work you're doing is really excellent. And it's, as you know so well, we're in an amazing time, and it's one of these things where we need to continue. We need to enjoy the ride, but be careful to not just go off the rails as we do it. So,
Okay.